All right, guys, we're back. Our April market snapshot for our 2023 real estate market forecast. We return. For those of you that attended our actual forecast last month at the Riverside Fox Theater, thank you for attending. Oh, by the way, this is me, Lance Martin, Coldwell Banker Town and Country, if you didn't have that part figured out already. I did want to give a gigantic, huge shout out to all of our speakers and all of the presenters and everybody we had at the forecast. It is a tremendous amount of work, and everybody, well, not all of them, but most of those people are doing that unpaid, and they're showing up and they're volunteering their time and their wisdom as a favor to me and to you guys. So I really, truly want to thank all of our speakers that came out and all of our sponsors. I'm pretty sure I didn't forget anybody. The larger logos paid a little bit more money. So again, a big shout out to all of our sponsors, and thank you so much again for helping us put on our forecast this year. We're going to continue to do what we've been doing. I mean, we've been somewhat virtual now for 3 years. That was the first live event we've done in a little while. Actually, 4 years. We've done 3 virtual events. But we're going to continue on with our monthly as we've been doing, and we'll continue to build on it. So I'm still calling our snapshot our forecast. This is the same slide, if you did attend the forecast, that has all of the videos and all of the presentations and everything here. So if you don't have that QR code, you can take a minute, pause, and hit that QR code. That will give you 100% of all the video content and all of the presentations and PowerPoints that we did. And this is just a link to my personal QR. They all kind of intermingle a little bit, so you've got that. So a couple things. Again, a special thanks to Chris. He was our keynote speaker. We're in studio today. Today is April 10th, just to kind of timestamp this for some of the market data we're going to do. Chris is actually going to come in this afternoon, and he is going to reshoot the entire video and presentation that he did on March 15th. So he'll be in studio here in a little bit, same screen, same studio, same wall, and update the content. I'm assuming we'd be a little updated. We're almost a month after the live event that he did at the Fox Theater, but we wanted to do it in studio. We were a little disappointed with the lighting in the theater, et cetera, et cetera. So we wanted to kind of memorialize that content, and quite honestly, we really like doing it in studio. We can control the light, we can control the sound, we can control a lot more. So Chris will be coming in, and that will be posted here in the next couple of days. It's a horrible headshot of Ito. Not that it's a bad one of his, just the quality's a little rough. But I've talked to Ito Benzivi. For those of you that were looking to see Ito at the forecast, he will be in studio, and we're going to shoot Ito hopefully before the end of April. And my goal is to put him out with the May snapshot. So hopefully sometime in the next 3-4 weeks we'll get with Ito. Funny story with Ito. While I was at the Fox Theater on March 15th, the day of the event, Ito calls me and says, "What time do I go on?" I'm like, "Oh, you're killing me." So a little bit of a miscommunication with Ito and I, but he's going to be joining us here. And we've got Bruce Norris coming out. Bruce doesn't even know this yet, but I'm going to fly out to see Bruce in Florida sometime in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, and we're going to shoot Bruce's opinion on the world. And I believe Bruce is going to do another market timing event. So for those of you Bruce Norris fans, I don't even think he's announced this yet either, but I'm kind of sort of think that you might actually hear and see Bruce back in Southern California maybe at the end of this year. But I'm going to go out and see him. We're going to shoot a video for him. We'll probably get that one posted in late May or June. So at any rate, Chris is going to reshoot. Ito Benzivi is going to come in this month. We'll get that out in May, and then hopefully I'll get to see Bruce as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. I've just thrown this news of interest slide. I'm going to revisit one slide that we did at the forecast on March 15th, just because for me personally, this just absolutely drives me nuts. So just to put this in context, our forecast was March 15th, a little less than a month ago. The bank failures that we've been hearing so much about, I should say the bank failures that we have not been hearing so much about over the last month, kind of sort of started with the Signature Bank and the Silicon Valley Bank. The part that I just pointed out at the forecast, and I'm going to point out again today for those of you that either missed it at the forecast or weren't there at all, is just the web of people that are involved in these things. It absolutely drives me crazy. So I just cannot understand how these individuals, and again, I'm repeating myself, you were at the forecast. So this is Barney Frank up here in the upper left-hand corner. Barney Frank, and this is Barney Frank and Christopher Dodd. If the names sound familiar, Dodd-Frank, that was basically the legislation that was passed coming out of the 2008 financial crisis. And in part, that was going to protect consumers and regulate banking and loans and do a whole bunch of things that were going to prevent the Great Recession and the mortgage crisis and lending crisis that we saw in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or whatever you feel that ended. So that's Barney Frank. And the reason I point out Barney Frank is Barney Frank was on the board of directors of Signature Bank at the time it failed. And I don't know the backstory, and I don't know whether Barney's a great guy. I've been told he's a very smart guy. I don't know. But I do not know how somebody whose name is attached to legislation, which has become universal in our industry as the regulatory standard for making sure bad things don't happen in the financial industry. I do not know how somebody whose name is on that legislation can be within 1,000 miles of a bank that fails. I just don't get it, okay? So I'm not going to draw conclusions that lead down to some sort of conspiracy and malign Mr. Frank, but I will tell you, it just amazes me. I do not understand how he or anybody around him could be around anything that failed in the form of the banking industry. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and quite honestly, it gets zero coverage in our media today. Quite honestly, that brings me to Mr. Becker. Greg Becker was the president and I believe the founding member of Silicon Valley Bank, one of the largest venture capital banks and startup angel fund. I don't know if it's angel funds, but basically startup funds for basically trying to start tech companies and all the rest up in Silicon Valley. Apparently very important, very needed, very et cetera, et cetera. The reason I have such a challenge with Mr. Becker is at the time Silicon Valley failed, Mr. Becker was on the San Francisco board of the Federal Reserve. Actually had a seat at the table at the San Francisco Fed, and which, by the way, when this bank failed, I think it was the next day, if you went to the Fed Reserve website and went to the San Francisco section, Mr. Becker's name and bio and all of his information with that was removed. So he's no longer on the Fed. But it just amazes me how these two individuals, who in theory are the smartest people in the rooms, setting policy, understand this better than everybody else, found themselves in that situation. It's not a confidence builder. So again, I went on a little bit of rant at the forecast last month. I guess I felt I needed to say it all over again and memorialize it here. I don't know, maybe these gentlemen will never be heard of again as in relation to these most recent bank failures. Maybe they'll be memorialized in a movie or a documentary a year or two from now that says, hey, this was the beginning of the new end. But it just absolutely just slays me. So at any rate, enough. So let's get into what we're doing here. We're just keeping an eye on Chairman Powell. We've actually seen some improvement. It's in interest rates, about 0.5 point just in the last month. So we'll see what he's doing. So let's get into the stuff. So we're going to do our normal thing with two extras that aren't so normal. We're going to do our normal LA County. We seem to start with LA County for some reason. Riverside, San Bernardino. We've been throwing Orange County in and out of the mix. I do have Orange County back, so we're going to do the 4 counties. And then I have what I'm going to call our canary in the coal mine market pick. So we're going to do 4 counties plus a city. It's going to take a little bit longer, but I'm a geek on this stuff. This is why I do it. I enjoy it. I help run my business on it, and I'm assuming some of my customers that are watching this stuff are geeks on this as well. But there's definitely some very interesting trends that are forming. And we call this the market forecast. Maybe we shouldn't really call this a forecast. Maybe we should just call this the trend analysis, because that's really what I do. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I kind of do an estimated guess on what I think is going to happen, and then something crazy happens in the news, or the Fed does something nutty or whatever. So I've always been hesitant to this is what I think is going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. But I certainly can follow the trends, and then I model my business decisions based on where I think the trends are going. So the trends, I think, are pretty darn interesting. So a couple of things, and you're going to see some stuff here build. Is this going to hold? I don't know. We'll take a little bit more time on LA County because all the charts look almost identical. So there's some very specific differences. I'll point those out, but for the most part, they're almost identical. So one of the things that I want to point out for all of the counties is we all kind of peaked back here. It's been about 10, 11 months ago, depending upon the market. So these are the peaks of where these values peaked out. We all kind of floated down here a little bit, and pretty much every single county that we have looked at since we've been doing this, all started to stabilize here a little bit, anywhere from a month ago to 2 months ago to 3 months ago for 4 months ago. And the property values have either been flat or they've actually increased a little bit. So what we're seeing in LA County is very close to what we've seen in the other counties. So, and again, you can kind of see, I don't know how well it translates, and all these slides are available, but you know, we're down, and basically up a little bit and up a little bit for the month of February and March of 2023. So this is the 24-month slide. The 12-month slide, you can start to see that little, you know, downward slide, but then you also see where, again, we've kind of leveled and stabilized, and then I guess this is, let's call it November or December, where we kind of troughed a little bit, and then we've been bouncing around, and we've seen some activity here. So some other very interesting trends. This will be the last month that we do peak to current. We started doing peak to current about 5-6 months ago. The reason this will be the last month that we do peak to current is because our peak basically is going to be next month or the following month. So for LA County, peak is April. The other counties, it might be May, it might be June, but for the most part, this will be the last month we do it because we're going to basically be comparing a year ago month peak to the current month. So this is LA County's peak to current. Same exact chart, by the way. It looks a little bit more dramatic, but the numbers are exactly the same. So what are we looking at here? So a couple things that I think are super, super interesting. In LA County, median prices dropped in the last 12 months, 8.5%. Okay? By the way, that's a smaller number than what we had a month ago. Why? Because the actual median bumped up here a little bit. So that's 805,000. 12 months ago, it was 880. 2 years ago, it was 785. This is another number that I think we need to pay very, very close attention to. As a matter of fact, on my graphic, I forgot. I was going to put like a little circle here around a few of these. Hey, don't forget about this one, Lance, when we're talking about this. The reason this is so important, this is a 2-year appreciation number, or a number, what's median done in the last 2 years. For LA County, 2.5%. So it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about these 20% appreciations, 30% appreciations, 40% appreciation over a 2-year window. Well, as we've gone over the last year or so and we started to see some pullback and some things have flattened, for LA County, 2 years ago, 785. Last month, this is March 31st, this is 10 days ago, today's April 10th, 2023. So this is today, 805. This is 2 years ago, 785, 2.5% increase. Now, what do we make of that? Well, what we make of that under normal circumstances, we would say, oh, that's been a pretty lackluster 2 years. 2 or 3% annual appreciation would be something nobody gets excited about, but it's actually a very healthy market. So a lot of these big numbers that we've seen have now adjusted and they've come back down. And we're more or less, at least in LA County, you could say for the last 2 years, we've been flat, okay? Well, how do we get to be flat? Well, because we basically lost about 12% since peak. So it took a lot of those numbers down and it flattened them out. I'm not doing year-to-date yet. It'd be 3 months, from January to March. To me, the year-to-date number is insignificant. Which, by the way, if I was going to do a year-to-date, this would be a positive number. The number median price in March is higher than the median price in January. But I'm going to leave out year-to-date, or we'll probably come up with a percent year-to-date change. Maybe we'll start throwing that in May, have a little bit more meaning. So at any rate, I'm going to focus a lot on this number here, this 2-year number for all the counties. So LA County is generally flat. We've lost some value, yes. So what do you mean? How can you say it's flat, Lance? We've lost 8.5%. Yeah, we lost 8.5%. But the number was actually bigger last month or the month before, because we've actually seen a little bit of increase in that median. So what's supply and demand on LA County? Again, very similar to the other counties, so I'll spend a little bit more time setting the stage. So as red's our supply of listings, yes, listing inventory is still struggling. Oh, it's just continuing to be a nightmare. Our pendings have trended down. This is the 2-year chart, have trended down. But the bottom line, the pendings are low. This is where you get all that angst in the real estate market. We have 2 major things that we're challenged with right now. Forget about the economy and interest rates and what the Fed's doing. We don't have a whole heck of a lot of properties to sell. Inventory is low. That's going to be across the board on everything we're looking at. And whether it's because of interest rates or whether it's just because of consumer confidence or lack thereof consumer confidence or whatever other factor you want to plug in, even though we have less inventory, and we do see these numbers of buyers increasing, the bottom line is we have much fewer buyers willing to engage, okay? The only reason, I don't know about the only reason, certainly one of the reasons these property values have been able to kind of hold where they are and maybe not even lost more is because that inventory number is coming down so low. If the inventory number was higher, quite honestly, those of you guys in the market that are like, oh, we're going to see a collapse, oh, we're going to see a repeat of 2008, oh, it's going to be the end of the world. If these red bars were higher, you would probably be closer to accurate in your assessment of what's going on in the marketplace, but the bottom line is the red bars are not higher, and I'm not sure they are going to be higher. One other thing I'm going to focus on here for LA County, because it's exactly the same on the other counties in our little spotlight city. If I go back a year ago and I take a look at the inventory, this is, I think, December of 2021 and January, or maybe this is December, it doesn't matter. January of 2022, February, March, April, May, we kind of saw basically an upward trend in inventory. We started seeing listings come. That's very, very traditional. I've been looking at these same charts for close to 20 years, same program, same red, same blue. I mean, it's identical. I probably need to get a better program. It's updated a little more visually graphic, but it's the same one. And every single year, with maybe an exception here or there, I can't remember where they are, you would see these inventory levels start to increase in December, January, and then they'd start to taper off. You know, this 2021, it looks like they stopped in August was the highest month. This looks like also like August is the highest month. So basically people list their house, come off the holidays, list, and then you get to August and you start to see those numbers decrease. This is not usual, okay? This is not the norm. We have continued to see residential lists, and by the way, only single family residentials. Everything else we took out a few months ago. So they're just going down, and they continue to go down. And if you force me to do a forecast, what are we going to see for April listing inventory? I don't think they're going to go up. They might be flat. Maybe they're going to be down. Maybe they'll be up a smidge. But there's no indication on the first 10 days of April of 2023 that I'm starting to see a flood of listings. Oh, the taxes are coming. People are going to list their houses after they get through their taxes. I don't know. Not seeing anything like that. So if you force me to put a guess in, what are the April inventories listing numbers going to look like? I'd say either flat or down. Not usual. So this is a year ago. This is, well, somewhat flat, but not down. But then we started to see this. Are we going to see some listing inventory tick up at some point and actually have a traditional spring and summer sales season? I hope so. I hope so. So at any rate, so this is LA County. Again, I took more time because they're so similar. This is the same exact chart isolated for 12 months. This is basically our month supply of inventory. We were higher inventory, but now we're down. For LA County, that's 2.5 months, 2.4 months supply. Not a very large supply of inventory. So again, I've been focusing on this quadrant in the last couple of months. So this is the active listings, down 17% from 12 months ago, 22% from before. The pending sales, down 28% from a year ago, down 34% from 2 years ago. This is why people in my industry are like screaming. I know this is a broken record, we've been saying this, but at some point we would like to see those pending sales get a little bit of support behind them, and we're just not seeing it. We're seeing people come together, but we're just not seeing it. So these numbers are tough. So this is Riverside County. I'll go a little bit faster because the charts look so similar, but again, we saw a little bit of stabilization. Riverside County's ticked up the last couple of months. That's the 24-month. This is the 12-month, and again, you can kind of see this little gap in here. So we're riding it down, Lance. There's going to be a big collapse. Everything's going to fall apart. We're going to just, not here. We've seen some stability, and if we were going to see some price drops, I think we would have continued to see them through the first quarter of the year, but we just haven't seen it yet. This is peak to current. Last time you're going to see this chart, Riverside County peaked in June, so this is our peak, and that's where we are now. And again, same exact chart, just represented a little bit differently. So again, coming back to the LA County, comparing it to Riverside County, 5.1% drop in medium over the last 12 months. Okay. I mean, if you bought 12 months ago and I told you your house was worth 5% less than when you bought it, you probably wouldn't be happy. But, something, and it is what it is. It's not the end of the world. But unlike LA County, 2.5% for a 2-year, well, Riverside County's had almost a 13% appreciation over the last 2 years. That's not crazy. That's not crazy high. It's not crazy low. On any given period of time, if someone just said, hey, you saw a 12% increase in property values over 2 years, or 6% and a 6%, I'd say, yeah, it's pretty normal. Nothing to get too excited about marketplace. So again, I really hyper-focused on these, and we're going to see where they go. The peak to current is 7.4. So if this was 12 months ago, this is 10 months ago. So if you bought in May or June in Riverside County, on average, you've lost 7.5%, 7.4% from peak. Is that a big deal? Well, if it's you, it's a big deal. But I think we'd be okay. Same exact chart as LA. Look at that, just boom. I know it's a broken record, but it is what it is. We're just not seeing the inventory numbers there. And again, this is the same chart for 12 months. This was last year, okay? We bottomed here in, that looks like December of 2021. Well, here is December of 2021 or 2022, January, February, March. We're just on the steep decline, just not seeing the inventory level for all the reasons we've probably talked about before. Maybe you got a lot of people with very low mortgages. I know we're repeating ourselves. Why sell? And by the way, what am I going to replace it with? This is the supply and demand. Similar to LA County, except LA County, if you were paying attention, had a 2.4% month supply of inventory. Riverside County has 1.5%. So not a lot of houses available. So here we are, same exact chart. So listings have actually gone up. So for as much as I want to bitch about where listed inventory is, even though matter of fact, let me go back, okay? So let's do the 12-month. So this is listings, okay? And I'm saying that, hey, listings in Riverside County are problematic. Well, March of 2021, we actually have more listings in March of 2023 than we did 2 years ago. It's 1.7% more. So even though we like this, for Riverside County, that number is not significantly lower. And then from 2 years ago, it is lower. So it's 6.9%. Hopefully I got that right on my chart. Otherwise, I'm going to embarrass myself. That's supposed to be a minus. Minus, that's why I went back and looked at it. Something didn't look. This looked right. That looked wrong. So that should be a minus. So 7% fewer listings in Riverside County. Pardon my error. I'll get that corrected if you guys pull the slides up. But again, to focus on what we talked about in LA County, 28% fewer sales than 12 months ago. And let's call it 30% fewer sales than 24 months ago. That's rough. San Bernardino, again, I still got these weird little anomalies here in San Bernardino. I know I'm using median price. That's certainly more subject to some fluctuations in values. But I've been using these same charts forever. It's very rare I see these type of swings. Again, I still don't know exactly why that's happened in San Bernardino County, but even if you kind of blend out these 2 months, we've still seen some improvement. We've seen an upward trend, and San Bernardino County medium is stable to up. So it is what it is. That's the 12-month chart, which is completely flat, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that. Peak to current. So what do we got going on in San Bernardino County? In the last 12 months, flat. There's been basically no change in medium. Well, I guess a little bit. $100. 12 months ago, $499.9. Last month, $500,000. Flat. Zero. But similar to Riverside County, 13% higher. So if you bought 2 years ago, hey, you're 13.4% higher. But, well, wait a minute, what if I bought at peak? You're 5% less, give or take. So supply and demand in San Bernardino County, again, same thing. Red bars down, down, down. When will it change? Soon, I hope. So same, this is the 12-month chart. Let's blow past that. And 1.8 month supply of inventory in San Bernardino County. So if you're looking for a reason for property values not to fall, there it is, okay? Even with this limited number of buyers. When I say limited number of buyers, 30% fewer sales than a year ago, 37% than 2 years ago in San Bernardino County. Limited buyers, limited inventory, but values are stable. Orange County, boy, this is an interesting one. I haven't really done Orange a lot. I started doing Orange County a little while back because I was here, oh my God, the world's ending in Orange County and everything is falling apart. Okay, well, I was hearing that during these months. And quite honestly, I think it's a little more dramatic if I got a $1 or $2 or $3 million property and I've lost 10%. Well, geez, 10% of a $3 million property is a lot of money. You could buy a house in other parts of Inland Empire for the amount of money you just lost. So maybe that's why they got a little bit more exercise. And if I bought here and I sold here, maybe I wasn't going to be so happy. But what's happened in Orange County for the last several months? Well, we apparently have seen some backfilling, with one major reason behind that, which again is not good if you're in my business. If you're a buyer or seller, you don't really care about that. There's your 12-month isolated chart for Orange County. This is your peak to current. And peak for Orange County was April of 2022. So this chart will go away because next month when I do the May numbers, it'll be April, and this is where we're going to be. So we're going to see where we are. So peak to current next month for Orange County will be current month. So we'll get rid of this chart completely. So what are we looking at? 4.5% loss in median value in 12 months. Nothing to get extremely wound up about. But Orange County still almost 22% higher than it was 2 years ago. This is why when folks like Dr. Thornburg or some other folks that are analyzing this, they're like, calm down, you still got a huge amount of equity. Doesn't make anybody feel better if you feel you've backtracked a little bit, but I mean, hey, if you did buy 2 years ago and you've seen the pullback, well, you're still 22% on average higher than you were 2 years ago, which again is part of the problem. You cannot see these gigantic appreciation numbers and not expect to see the pain that we've been going through for, I guess, about a year now. The peak to current for Orange County is 5.4% drop. Again, dramatic inventory drops in Orange County, dramatic pending drops in Orange County, very similar. All these charts are available, so if you guys want to study them, you can study them. 1.4% month of supply in Orange County. Okay, Riverside was 1.5, San Bernardino was 1.8, LA County I think it said was 2.5, 2.8. Well, why are we starting to see some property values go back up in Orange County? Well, probably because of this, because there's just not a whole hell of a lot of inventory. 20% fewer than a year ago, 38% fewer houses for sale than 2 years ago, but look at this. Oh, God. 2 years ago, we sold 50% more houses. Half again. That's why if you're an Orange County realtor, escrow, mortgage, title, anybody in my business, that's why these numbers don't make you feel very good. I can sit back and say market's flat, we've seen some appreciation in value, but the transaction, matter of fact, there's a slide that I just realized now I forgot to put in here, which was really my theme of the real estate market forecast that we did on March 15th, and the theme was transactions are just compressed lower and lower and lower. So we can say, hey, values have stabilized a little bit, interest rates have come down a little bit, but the transactions are AWOL. So we shall see. I believe Adam and I were debating, I think that's a canary. I used Canva and I searched canary in a coal mine. I didn't get a coal mine. I think I got a canary, so that's my canary. So my spotlight city for this month is going to be Moreno Valley. Now, I have had an office in Moreno Valley. I currently have an office in Moreno Valley. I'm using Moreno Valley. And by the way, I've paid my personal bills and payroll and bought my boats and cars and put my kids in school by selling a lot of homes in the city of Moreno Valley. City of Moreno Valley, if I'm being honest, has not had the best reputation for a variety of reasons, foreclosures or whatever it happens to be back in the past. I will tell you though, the Moreno Valley I do consider Moreno Valley a bellwether community, not necessarily just for the Inland Empire. I think you can take a look at what's happening in Moreno Valley and you can, believe it or not, I think you can even compare it to even some of the beach cities or LA or even the low desert, Palm Springs, La Quinta, Indian Wells, whatever it happens to be. It's very, very interesting how this city tracks. And to be honest with you, I know this city better than pretty much anything else I put up here. So what are we seeing? It's the same sort of stuff. Values have tinkered around. We've seen some flattening and even some improvement over the last couple months. Does that look like LA County, San Bernardino County, Riverside County, Orange County? It does. That's same chart over 12 months. Peak to current, everything seems to have peaked sometime in April, May, or June. Moreno Valley was no different. Everything kind of bounced around here and it started to come back the last couple months. Moreno Valley was no different. So if you're looking at maybe some underserved communities or maybe some communities that have suffered in the past, this being one of them, well, it seems to be trending almost like everything else does. So what have we seen in the city of Moreno Valley? In 12 months, flat. Last 12 months, flat, March to March. Now, the peak for Moreno Valley, I think was May or June. Now it's lost 6%, very similar to what we've seen on some of the other cities, but it's also up 20%, 19.4% over the last 24 months. Again, to go back to talk about Chris Thornburg, where he tells everybody, relax, relax. We're not going to see foreclosures. We're not going to see this. Doesn't mean we're not going to see any, but I have a hard time disagreeing with a statement like that, because if I own a property in the city of Moreno Valley, knowing everything that I've known about that community, and I've been in there for 30 years, and I've seen 3 foreclosure cycles decimate that town, along with a lot of other towns around it, well, the properties are still worth almost 20% more than they were 2 years ago. Doesn't help you if you bought at peak, okay? If you got an FHA loan and you bought a minute ago, 10 months ago, and you lost your job, or you feel a little financially insecure, then you are underwater, but you are a very, very small percentage of the population. Again, same thing with inventory. If I told you this was Orange County instead of Moreno Valley, you couldn't tell the difference. It's basically the same. That's a 12-month chart. 1.2 months supply, okay? So again, if you look at Moreno Valley as a bellwether, or the canary in the coal mine, are bad things going to happen? It's very hard for bad things to happen price-wise when you only have 4.5, 5 weeks of inventory on the market. How are you going to see a collapse with 4.5 or 5 weeks, 1.2 months supply of homes available in the city? Pretty difficult. You got a lot of people just sitting on their hands. But the inventory numbers are still down. These are the listings down. This is why I'm not happy with my sales agents in Moreno Valley, because we're selling 35% fewer houses, and I still got the same rent and the same payroll and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Small number though. Let's go back here and isolate this for a second. There's only 300, call it 293, 300 houses available in the whole city. Some of you have been following me for a while. You've heard me say this before. I've tracked this data going back 20 years. And I wish I still had the Excel spreadsheets, so I'd pop them up on the screen. For the first 10 years I was tracking Moreno Valley, the number of homes for sale in the city was between 1,500 and 2,000 homes. That was normal at any given time, okay? We haven't seen that, by the way, in probably 10 to 12 to maybe 15 years. But at any rate, 293 houses, 111 houses sold. That's kind of tough to make a living. Sold 111 houses last month. Interest rates. Hey, I don't know if you've looked at what we've been talking about as good news or bad news for the last 30 minutes, but let me give you some positive news. This is about 0.5 point lower than it was 3 weeks ago. So this is from Optimal Blue. This is basically just an index of a whole bunch of different mortgage companies across the country. And you can see as we've dropped down, the different lines are FHA, conforming, jumbos, and all the rest of that. But basically, you know, if you're triple platinum credit and you look really, really good, you're going to get a, 6.27 or 6.257, 6.25 mortgage for a 30-year conforming loan. When we did this a month ago, it was 6.75, 7% with Optimal Blue's chart. This is the old Google machine chart. It's always going to be a little higher. $500,000 loan, 20% down in California, basically a 550 FICO. Lance, why is it 0.5 point higher than the Optimal Blue chart? I don't know. It is. That's why I put both of them up there. So if your bottom line is, if you're in the market to buy and you did not buy a month ago and you're thinking about buying today, guess what? You're the smartest person in the room. Because interest rates came down a little bit. Oh, but maybe you're not the smartest person in the room because values went up a little bit. See how that happens? So we shall see. But bottom line, rates have seemed to improve a little bit. We'll continue to keep an eye on what the Fed's doing, and we'll go from there. I think I'm done. So that's our April 2023 real estate market snapshot. We're going to post this first. For those of you that want to see the freshly reminted Chris Thornburg in-studio video, this will be posted here probably in the next 24 hours, so I'm thinking April 11th, Tuesday, Wednesday, April 11th or April 12th. This video will be live. Chris's video will be almost immediately thereafter. So if you guys really want to see Chris in studio with a 30-day newer presentation, stand by. We'll make sure you have a link to it. Have a good one. We'll see you next month.